This is the TAF Hub, a show brought to you by TAF Africa Global to educate you on real estate matters, to mentor you and inspire you.
After 48 years of working and also traveling all over the world, I am ready to share my experience with you, especially those young ones who follow me for inspiration.
Honorable Jagana, I call him Mr. President because he was the former president of the Chamber of Commerce. And in the French system, especially in Senegal, once you hold a portfolio, you die with it. So if you're a minister, they'll always call you Honorable Minister. If you are a president, they'll call you Honorable President or Excellency. So Excellency, Monsieur le Président.
Merci mon grand frère. Thank you, Mustapha. And Anita, by the way, I'm wearing red socks, okay? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think this is the fourth cohort, but this is my fifth time talking about futuristic visions. And when we started, it was 50 people in a small room at the TAF Dalaba Center, Madiba Mall. Futuristic vision. Before I start, I just want to acknowledge that Mustapha, I have a very young friend that I've invited, and he's here. Arthur William, he's here hiding at the back, but I just wanted to shame him to say that I've seen him. Futuristic vision. Simple explanation, elaborating on the importance of having a successful leader's ability to have a clear and informed vision of the future. It is once again a great pleasure and honor to be back with Team Tafla and give this lecture. I have ever convinced myself that those who will take this country forward are the youths, and today I can see that my hopes are renewed once again, because I'm not the oldest one on the stage. We have a very youthful young lady here who claims to be older, but she's very young. Today, and any other day from now, you gathered here have taken up the responsibility to change what is bad to what is good to what is better, and what is better to the best for this country. I will paraphrase the words of Edmund Burke. Tell me the sentiment that occupies the heart of your rising population, and I will tell you the characters of your future. It is interesting that some of the things I'll be talking about is intertwined to both previous speakers. With your determination and belief you have in the Gambia, it gives me hope to muster courage and tell the world that the sentiments that occupies the heart and mind of our rising population today is the narrative for a better Gambia. And I think all of us here in this room want a more prosperous, better Gambia with more empathy, with integrity. What is futuristic? Something from the future, very modern, of which we have not seen yet. It is interesting, when I started giving these lectures, nobody thought of AI and ChatGPT, but today is one of the hottest topics that was not on the radar at all when we started talking about the future. But ChatGPT and artificial intelligence is no more the future, it's the reality. And I would ask all of you to get involved in it. What is vision? It's the ability to see, sight or eyesight, something that you imagine, a picture that you have in your mind, but you can visualize it. Something that you can see in your dream. Visions are those inner bodyguards that prevents you from collapsing your future in the processing of building it, because you can see the process as you're going through it. Ladies and gentlemen, the response of a blind man when asked, what is worse than being blind? And please listen to this. Helen Keller responded, is having a sight with no vision. This is something that a blind person said, is having a sight with no vision. Visionary leadership is self-conquering. If you're able to conquer yourself from fears, if you're able to spot your position in the quest for greatness, then you're trudging on the right path for self-knowledge, which is the beginning of becoming an effective leader. We would assume that a leader with strength of futuristic vision would have an incredible ability to see the future and start thinking and designing, what do I want my tomorrow to be? And when I say my tomorrow, it's not about you as an individual, it's about tomorrow as a nation. This ability to see and explain the future is what draws them forward and excites them to pursue great accomplishments by putting together a team that share the same values and culture to achieve the team goals. Just as Anissa clapped twice for Njiland before us because of the colors and the branding. Futuristic leaders should have the ability to look past events of today and into the possibilities of tomorrow. They can visualize new ideas, concepts, markets, what their customer needs are, what kind of products and services, develop strategies and business models to meet the demand of the future by designing it today. Successful leaders will need to think further into the future and implement ideas in a timely manner. To remain competitive in this world that is changing so fast, you need to understand what your customers want tomorrow, not today. They would be equipped with the ability to imagine, have this envision, predict, and to some extent, project what has not been realized or thought of at the moment. Futuristic thinking is a key ingredient for any leader who wants to be effective in holding long-term strategic plans. Today, when we consider futuristic leaders, two names pop up among the top list. And these are Henry Ford and Steve Jobs. Henry Ford said you can have it in any color as long as it's black. And with Steve Jobs, I don't need to tell you, you're young enough to know what happened with iPhone and Apple and the technology they have delivered over the years. They are excellent examples of visionaries who disrupted their industries, and today they are legends. Today, any one of you here could develop their own futuristic thinking skills and set the narratives for major changes that will impact lives of people all over the world, beyond the Gambia, where you have the technology to reach millions of people. You just have to build a strong vision of your own and think out of the box. It's possible, believe me. You just have to believe in yourself and it would happen. And by the way, I suppose all of us have these guys that are naysayers. And please, they always have limited effects on you by being negative. So as they said, birds of the same feather fly together or flock together. Futuristic leaders of the same feather flock together. And TAF would say, Gambia dafa dem dia kuya. That's why I'm flying with him. Because I know for sure Gambia dafa dem dia kuya. Features of futuristic leaders. They have to be visionary, as I mentioned earlier. They have the ability to look into the big picture and not caught up or held down by existing conditions. Figure out how to go to Talinding, use a helicopter, create one, or find a railway or do something. Disrupt the market. They have the ability to use their imagination to lay down a detailed vision of what is and what ought to be. When Steve Jobs came up with the iPhone, during his presentation, he talked about being what? A telephone, a camera, a music player, all in your pocket. Before, it was not possible. I mean, during TAF's time and Mr. Ngom, it was LP players. I suppose most of you have a LP player. Huh? Can I use LP CNF? Nobody. Then Gilan's time, it was Sony cassette. No, my time was Sony cassette, and her time was CD. Yeah, I'm skipping a little bit. So as you can see, things evolve. Now you can have all of that in a simple device that fits in top of your pocket. Risk takers, visionary leaders have to be risk takers. Great leaders of all times have one time or taking risk. In order for you to become what you want to be, you have to become a risk taker. You have to sacrifice. Until you are ready to sacrifice, you will not be successful. Because if you don't take that risk, you will not know whether you will succeed or not. In as much as you want to be your best and you want to take risk, I would also caution you to take calculated risk. My background is that of a chartered accountant like Gilan and Mr. Ngom. But you know, Mustapha, maybe that's why he's more successful than us. He did not calculate his risk, he just jumped into it. But it's good to have calculated risk. You need to calculate what risk you're taking, what are the opportunities, what are the consequences, what are the possibilities. You have to be fearless. You have to have the ability to challenge the status quo and demand questions as why is it not happening? To use curiosity to envision a better future that can only happen if you break barriers. Rosa Parks did it by deciding to sit in front of the boss. Some 68 years later, it gave an opportunity to an African American to be a president of the United States. Making sure you lead the team to understand that business as usual stuff will not cut it. For if you want to exist and stay relevant, like what the American president John F. Kennedy did, the race to the moon. When the Russians went to the space, he said, we're going to the moon. You have to develop expertise. To be successful, the ability to put together a team that will constantly collect and analyze the current trends and project the potential future businesses and markets. It is important for you as the leader to have your finger on the pulse of the business and the industry you participate in. That was a quote from Henry Ford. The pulse tells basically what is happening in the market that you're in. As a future visionistic leader, you need to be proactive. You have to have the ability to set aside time to think and reflect on the vision, rather than being swallowed by day-to-day tasks and lose sight of the bigger picture. This is important, especially when you lead in a team. As Gillian mentioned, she knows all the tasks, but as the team leader, she basically let people do what they do and she manages them. This is why it is important that you set aside time for thoughtful contemplation. This would allow you as a leader to reflect on the possibilities and the long-term effects of your decision, which can help you determine which direction to take and solve possible challenges and effectively plan and strategize for successful implementation. Ladies and gentlemen, during my talks, this is one of the most interesting components or parts of the talk. Have any of you heard the story of Babylon and the richest man in Babylon? Babylon was a kingdom in the ancient city of Mesopotamia, founded around 2300 BC. The city was built on the Euphrates River, and at the time, it was the richest city and had some of the wealthiest people in the world. Babylon was located today in where we call Iraq. The glory of Babylon endures down through the ages. Its reputation comes to us the richest of the cities. Its treasure was fabulous. Yet, Not as always so. The riches of Babylon were results of wisdom of its people and its king. When King Sargon returned to Babylon after defeating his enemies, the Almonads, he was confronted with a serious situation as the leader of the kingdom. He called in the royal chancellor, equivalent to the finance minister. After many years of great prosperity brought to our people, because your majesty had the vision to build the irrigation system, canals, and mighty temples of God. Now these works have been completed, people are enabled to support themselves. The chancellor explained to the king, this is why we're having an economic, in modern times now we'll call it economic depression. The laborers are without employment, the merchants have few customers, the farmers are unable to sell their produce, and the people have not enough gold to buy food. In those days, gold was the currency. The king wondered where has all the gold gone that he has spent for those great improvements. It was found, the chancellor responded, I fear, into the possession of few rich people or men of our city. It filtered through the fingers of most of our people as quickly as gold milk goes through the strainer. So said the chancellor. Now the stream of gold has ceased to flow. Most of our people have nothing for their earnings. After some reflection from the chancellor's speech, the king asked, why should so few men be able to acquire all the gold? The chancellor responded, because they know how. And one may not condemn a man for succeeding because he knows how. Neither may one with justice take away from man what he has fairly earned to give. But the king demanded, why should not all the people learn how to accumulate wealth and therefore become themselves rich and prosperous? It is possible, Your Excellency. But the king asked, who can teach my people? Certainly not the priest, where they know nothing of money making. The king asked the chancellor, who knows the best in our city how to become wealthy? The chancellor responded, who has amassed the greatest wealth in Babylon, Akrat. He is the richest man in Babylon. The king requested Akrat to be brought before him. Upon arrival the next morning, the king asked Akrat, is it true thou art the richest man in Babylon? So it is reported. He has not admitted it. He said, so it is reported. You know, wealthy people don't like to admit that they are wealthy. Your Majesty, no man has disputed it yet. How did you become so wealthy? And is it possible to avail all citizens in our good city? Replied the king. After a long discussion, it was agreed by Akrat that he would teach men on how to acquire and accumulate wealth. And by the way, when this story was happening, it was men that were doing work. So it's not my doing that, I'm just referring to men. When I say men here, I mean people. So it includes both men and women. The king was excited that his vision of teaching all his citizens in the city the secrets of wealth acquisition is possible. Akrat emphasized and reassured the king that it's practical, that which one man knows can be taught to others. The king was delighted in the near future his vision of having a city of wealthy men would be achieved. The king's eyes glowed, and Akrat thus speaketh the words I wish to hear. Will thou lend yourself to this great cause? Will thou teach thy knowledge to a school of teachers, each of whom will teach others until there is enough trained to teach these truths to every worthy subject in my domain? Akrat agreed to contribute towards the vision of the king and asked the chancellor to arrange for a class of 100 men, and he, Akrat, would teach them those secrets of courses to fatten a purse. A fortnight later, in compliance with the king's command, the chosen 100 assembled in the great hall, temple of learning, and seated upon colorful rings in semicircles. Akrat sat beside a small taboret, and upon which smoked a scared lamp, sending forth strange and pleasant odors. Standing in front of 100 eager men, Akrat opened his training with the following statements. As a dutiful subject of our great king, I stand before you in his service because I once was a poor youth who did not greatly desire gold. Because I found knowledge that enabled me to acquire it, he asked that I impart it unto you. This knowledge I'm going to impart unto you for free. Akrat, over the next couple of nights, shared his knowledge of gaining wealth through 7 steps, which, if followed by any of the attendees, could attain the wealth. In conclusion, these are the 7 steps. Start type post to fatten, control your expenditures, make Thai gold multiply, guard your treasuries from loss, make Thai dwelling a profitable investment, ensure future income, increase ability to earn. I think even thousands of years from then to now, this lesson is still worth looking into. The above story is from the book The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason. It was first published in 1926. Just a little, about 97 years ago. And it's still relevant today. And I would urge you to look into that book and read it. As we saw from the story, a visionary leader must have the passion, must have the will and the discipline to be creative and develop the necessary knowledge required to achieve long-term visions and goals set. The individual is expected to inspire his people and interpret his vision and execute the plan over a period of time. We expect futuristic leaders to have certain characteristics that will be employed to inspire the team to greatness. This includes great communicators. They need to be charismatic. They need to be organized. I think Mr. Ngom mentioned coming on time. That is one of the most critical things, to be organized. They need to take risk. They have to have a strategic plan. Visionary leaders are celebrated well beyond their lifespan. And today some of the most well-known include the following. Abraham Lincoln was an American lawyer and politician who served as the 16th president of the US until his assassination. Lincoln led the United States through civil war, one of his bloodiest wars. In doing so, he preserved by convincing his fellow Americans to create a union. And today we know what has happened with the United States. Warren Buffett is an American business magnate, investor, and philanthropist who served as chairman of Berkshire Hathaway. He is considered one of the most successful investors in the world. His net worth in 2022 was $125 billion. Steve Jobs, as I mentioned earlier, with the phone. Marconi was an Italian who started the radio transmission that helped us communicate today. Edison was power generation. Jeff Bezos started Amazon. And in our own Gambia, we had Mrs. Harriet Dow, who started one of the biggest schools 50 years ago. Then there's this gentleman who started as a carpenter, went into construction and global estate, and that's Mustapha Njie himself. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I would like to share the story of an old man who was believed to be filled with wisdom, and he was well respected in society where he lived. Whatever I said before you can ignore, but please listen to this last part. One day, 2 boys went to challenge him to embarrass him. They caught 2 birds and went to the old man with the plan that each will hold 1 bird in their hands and asked the old man which of the hands has the bird which is alive and which one has the bird that has died. If he pointed at one, then they would strangle the bird that he pointed to die and let the others go. They called up the old man into the village choir to disgrace him. He looked at the two boys holding the birds in their hands and nodded his head and responded, "Young men, the life of the birds in your tender care is the life of the future of this society. If you decide to strangle it, you're going to kill this society. If you let those birds fly, you're going to allow this nation and society to prosper." Ladies and gentlemen, the future of this country, our nation, is in your tender care, and it's for you to mold for us all to benefit, or to strangle this nation and for us all to perish. Thank you, and God bless the Gambia. When Mr. Ngong was talking, he mentioned Rwanda a couple of times. And it's ironic that I came across a book a couple of weeks ago, and I ordered 3 books. And one of it I'm going to present to TAF, and it's called Rwanda Inc. And I did mention it to him the other day, that look, I was thinking where are we going to meet, because I have a book for you. And I think you either mentioned it or I mentioned it. I said, I bought the book already, it just arrived. So I want to take this opportunity to present his copy to Mustapha Njie.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the inspiration.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the TAF Hub. Until we come your way on our next episode, subscribe, like, and share.